From couch to confidence. How resistance bands changed my life. She stared at the bright yellow band coiled on her living room floor like it was mocking her. 3 months ago, it arrived in a box with promises she didn't believe anymore. Now it just gathered dust next to the coffee table, another forgotten attempt at becoming someone she wasn't sure she could be. Most mornings started the same way. She'd wake up with good intentions, scroll through transformation posts from people who seemed to have it all figured out, then feel that familiar weight settle back into her chest. The gym membership she never used, the running shoes that hurt her knees, the workout plans that lasted exactly 4 days before life got in the way again. But something was different about that particular Tuesday morning. Maybe it was the way her back ached when she stood up. Maybe it was seeing an old photo where she recognized her smile but not the energy behind it. Or maybe she was just tired of feeling tired. She picked up the resistance band. It felt lighter than she expected, less intimidating than the cold metal dumbbells she'd tried before, less judgmental than the crowded gym where everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing. This was just a piece of elastic in a quiet room. No witnesses to her uncertainty. What she didn't know then was how this simple object would unravel years of assumptions about what strength actually meant. The first workout was honestly terrible. She tried following a video tutorial, but her form was wrong. The band kept slipping, and she felt ridiculous. Part of her wanted to quit right there, to confirm what she'd always suspected, that transformation stories happened to other people, not to someone who could barely make it through 10 minutes without feeling defeated. But here's what surprised her. The next morning, her muscles ached in places she'd forgotten existed. Not the sharp pain of injury, but something else. A reminder that her body was still capable of responding, of adapting, of trying. It felt oddly hopeful. She did it again the next day, then the day after that. Not because she suddenly loved it, but because the barrier to starting was so low. No commute, no special clothes, no performance anxiety. Just her, the band, and 20 minutes before the rest of the world demanded her attention. Somewhere around week 2, something shifted. She noticed she could pull the band a little farther, not dramatically, not Instagram-worthy, but measurably different. Her body was listening. After years of feeling disconnected from her own physical self, this small proof of progress hit differently than she expected. Researchers at the American Council on Exercise found something fascinating about resistance training. When people engage muscles against progressive tension, even moderate resistance, their bodies don't just build strength, they rebuild confidence in their physical agency. The neural pathways that connect intention to action start firing more efficiently. You begin to trust yourself again, in ways that extend far beyond the workout. She started to understand this without knowing the science behind it. Every time she completed a set, she was proving something to herself. Not about how she looked, but about her capacity to show up, to be uncomfortable, and to keep going anyway. But let me be honest about something. Progress wasn't linear. There were mornings she woke up and genuinely didn't want to do it. Days when work stress made her want to skip it entirely. Moments when she compared herself to other people and felt like she was moving backwards. What would you do in those moments? When motivation disappears and you're left with just the choice itself. She learned to negotiate with herself. Some days she did the full routine. Other days, just 5 minutes. The goal wasn't perfection. It was presence. Showing up in whatever capacity she could became its own kind of victory. Around week 6, her partner noticed something had changed. Not her appearance necessarily, though her posture was straighter, her movements more confident. It was something in her energy. She seemed more settled in her own skin, less apologetic about taking up space. That's when she realized the resistance bands weren't just changing her body. They were changing her relationship with challenge itself. Every time she increased the resistance, stretched the band a little farther, held the tension a little longer, she was teaching herself that discomfort could be productive. That struggle didn't mean failure. That effort could feel good even when it was hard. Physical therapists have known this for decades. Resistance bands provide something weights can't always replicate. Variable tension throughout the entire range of motion. Your muscles stay engaged from start to finish. There's no momentum to cheat with, no gravity to help you out. Every inch requires your active participation. She laughed one morning, realizing she'd accidentally created a ritual she actually looked forward to. Not because it was easy, but because it was hers. A private space where she could be clumsy and determined and imperfect and still making progress. All at the same time. Then came the injury scare. Or what she thought was an injury. One morning her shoulder felt wrong. Sharp pain when she lifted her arm. The old version of herself would have taken this as a sign to quit, proof that her body was too fragile for this kind of effort. Instead, she adjusted. She researched modifications, focused on her lower body while her shoulder healed, learned to listen to the difference between productive discomfort and genuine warning signals. This adaptability, this problem-solving became another form of strength she hadn't expected to develop. What surprised me most wasn't just how resistance bands improved my experience with home fitness, but how everything started to feel different once I switched to the right method. I wasn't expecting such a clear change, and honestly, I tested it more than a few times before I figured out what really worked. This isn't a promotion, just sharing real results that made a noticeable difference for me. I'll leave the link below if you want to explore what I mean. By month 3, her body had changed in ways that went deeper than appearance. Yes, her arms had definition they didn't before. Yes, her core felt more stable. But more importantly, she moved through the world differently. She stood taller, naturally. She carried groceries without strain. She felt capable in a way she'd forgotten was possible. Her friends started asking what she was doing. She'd describe the resistance bands, the 20-minute routines, the gradual progression, and watched their faces cycle through the same skepticism she'd felt months earlier. Something so simple couldn't possibly create real change, could it? But that's exactly why it worked. The simplicity removed every excuse. The low cost removed financial pressure. The privacy removed performance anxiety. The portability meant she could take them traveling, and the progressive resistance meant her body was constantly adapting, constantly being challenged in just the right proportion. Sometimes, we only understand strength when it's tested. Not in dramatic moments of crisis, but in the quiet accumulation of small choices that eventually reshape who we are. She thought about all the years she'd waited for the perfect program, the perfect motivation, the perfect version of herself to emerge before taking action. How much time she'd lost believing transformation required dramatic overhauls and unwavering discipline. The truth was so much gentler than that. Change happened in 20-minute increments, in showing up when she didn't feel like it, in adjusting when things didn't work, in celebrating progress that no one else could see yet, in treating herself with the same patience she'd offer a friend who was struggling. People talk about fitness transformations like they're purely physical. Before and after photos, numbers on a scale, inches lost or gained. But the real transformation happens in how you see yourself, in what you believe you're capable of, in how you respond when things get difficult. When she looked in the mirror now, it wasn't her reflection that had changed most dramatically. It was what she believed about herself. She saw someone who kept promises to herself, someone who could be gentle and determined at the same time, someone who understood that strength wasn't about never struggling, it was about struggling and continuing anyway. The yellow resistance band still sits in her living room, but now it's joined by a few others. Different levels of resistance for different challenges. They're not gathering dust anymore. They're witnesses to something important. Evidence that transformation doesn't require perfection, just persistence. And the courage to start before you're ready. Tell us what part of this story resonated most with you. And tell us which country or city you're watching from. See you in the next video. Bye.